That is, you can catch the conversations, the hot conversations here on the stock markets, on the crypto, and other conversations that we shall be holding at Smart24 TV. You can also catch us live on our YouTube live stream at Smart24 TV Live. Now, today we have also a couple of things coming up on the show. Definitely, we are going to look into the stock markets as they played out last night, last evening. We'll also look into some of the top stories that will be coming in from the financial markets world. But first and foremost, if you're new here, if it's your first time watching this, a very warm welcome. And definitely, we are Smart24 and we are financial markets. We do the stocks, the bonds, derivatives, and commodities markets around Uganda, in East Africa, and around the globe as well. But mainly in Uganda, because we've had a long history of a very poor saving culture, a very non-investing nation, with people who are still keeping money under the pillow and some keeping them in boxes. And this is the exact mindset we would want to change into an investing mindset, a mindset that actually puts money aside, not just for saving, but for investment and for growth, making sure that that money brings in some return. And definitely talking about the capital markets, the stock market in particular, is what we scrutinize here. The information is as per the Uganda Security Exchange data that is coming in from the day trading, the end of day tradings of yesterday. That is the day before. And the markets here in Uganda on the stock open at exactly 9 a.m. and as I speak right now at exactly 15 minutes past 10, we have so far had 1 hour and 15 minutes on the stock market. People are trading and people are transacting and people are buying stock, people are buying shares, and people are selling. And that's exactly what we are all about. And definitely the data giving you here, what we're giving you here is just to brief you about how these companies are performing. And when we give you this performance, it's up to you to decide which company you would want to invest in with the help of your stockbroker, with the help of your financial advisor, so long as you are with someone who is licensed and dealing with someone who is able and competent enough to bring you to a wealthy return in the future. Definitely, we also look into pension sector because the pension sector is an investment sector. Most pension schemes, if not all, are aimed at giving money value in the long run. For example, if you have your savings account with NSSF and that money goes to NSSF in your pension basket, NSSF doesn't keep that money at all. NSSF uses that money for investment in some of these markets. For example, the financial markets like the equities, which are these shares, buying shares in several companies. Just to take note, NSSF has it's actually one of the leading stakeholder or shareholders in, for example, Umeme Uganda Limited. And whenever Umeme declares a dividend, you'll see NSSF going away with the lion's share because they are using the savers' money for investment. And that is exactly what we are all about. Now, this definitely data is as per the close of the markets last evening, and the markets closed at 1 p.m. yesterday and are open right now at 9 a.m. and these data could change, and therefore that is just a disclaimer for you who is starting to trade on the stock market, that this data is as per the close of the markets yesterday. Now, yesterday was another very active day. Looking at the overall performance of the stock market, remember we have 18 listings, and among these 18 listings we have 10 locally listed companies and about 8 cross listings, mainly from Kenya on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now, Uganda Security Exchange was mandated and incorporated in 1997 after Uganda, the Ugandan government came up with a program to try to involve a private sector in these public companies. And it's a company limited by guarantee, and definitely with government's policy of transforming the economy from the public economy and public companies to that of a private sector basis. We saw the emerging of this body in 1997, and coming up with this body was one of the very fast breakthroughs for the stock markets here in Uganda. And we saw companies like Uganda Clays at the time in 2000 come on board. We saw companies like Stanbic come later on. We saw companies like Uchumi Supermarket. We saw companies like maybe we look at KCB Bank and so on coming on board to get listed on the Uganda Security Exchange. Now, Uganda Security Exchange represents the link between investors and the of stock, which is in general the companies looking for capital. And so companies looking for capital come to the Uganda Security Exchange and request to be listed. If they qualify, if they are able to go through that scrutiny and the entire process of listing, they're able to issue a prospectus, which prospectus indicates how many shares they're issuing, how much, what is the worth of those shares, are there people willing or ready to buy those shares, how many are those, and if a company successfully goes through that scrutiny, it's listed on the exchange with those particular shares. Companies don't list all their shares, they don't list the entire company, they list a certain proportion of the company in terms of shares. And therefore, since that year 1997, we've had several counters on the market come on board seeking capital, and in this way companies are able to raise cheap capital. They're able to raise capital to grow and expand, contribute to the growth of the economy, produce more goods. And the more goods we produce, the more services we offer, the higher our GDP, our gross domestic product. And the lower the problems that come from, for example, foreign exchange, for example, the weakening of the shillings like we have seen in Kenya. Those are limited because if you're producing more, definitely you are competing with other people on the market, and you have more exports than imports, which gives you a competitive advantage as well. So these capital markets were born out of that spirit of trying to grow the economy through companies being able to raise cheap capital. A company would rather come to the exchange, get money than from the public by giving out shares, rather than going to the bank to get a loan, because loans are expensive instruments, like we all know, especially in the recent past, with interest rates going high every now and then, because interest rates follow the central bank rate, which also follows the inflation. And recently we have seen unprecedented inflation on the market, and therefore we see quite many companies that are finding it difficult to raise money because it's actually quite challenging. But we see this as a solution, for companies. They come on the market. They get the capital from the people that are willing to buy shares in those companies, and the very first time that is done, we call that a primary market or an initial public offer. This initial public offer gives a company the very first moment or chance to be able to trade on the stock market. And at this initial public offer, we see people coming up with several monies and giving out a given amount of money to be able to buy shares for the very first time. Excuse me. And this happens immediately at a given period of time, immediately after the company has been listed, for example, into 1 month into the company's listing. And when this is done, definitely we go into the secondary market, where we now are looking at this trading. And definitely that brief history gives you at least a little bit of picture of appreciating how far our capital markets have come and how beneficial they are to our economy. Now, looking at the performance of this particular stock market yesterday, we see that on average, the companies, actually we see the index going down. by 7.17 points, and that is about a 0.57% drop in points, meaning on average the trade went down, trading prices went down, because as we all know, the indices track the performance of the market as a whole in aggregate, looking at the performance of all these smaller companies. And definitely looking at this particular stock, we see that yesterday there was a slight decline in price. Now the gainers were actually about four. The top gainers, as you can see here on this screen, we see Uganda Clays came out on top of the market yesterday with a gain of 8.57%. And we see Centum Investment in second place at 316.49. Both of these companies, if you're with us yesterday, were losers. No, actually UCL was a gainer, but Centum was a loser yesterday. But we see them coming on top of the market today, as per the close of the markets yesterday. Kenya Airways at 121.95 also went up by 0.03%, and that was after also definitely a slight stability in prices yesterday. We didn't see much movement for over the last 3-4 days. And then Nation Media Group came in the fourth place with 0.03% increase in price to end the day with 604.96 Ugandan shillings trading prices. And this is how the market played out for these four who came out on top at the end of this particular trading day. On the losing side, we had a couple of counters losing, and from the bottom we see Wumeme coming at the bottom at 202 shillings and a negative 6.51% drop. And then we see Jubilee Holdings coming in the second last place at 7,920.20 Ugandan shillings, which indicated a 4.3% loss. New Vision also came down back to 155, where it was stuck quite some time back, and this was a 3.12% loss from 160, where it was trading before the end of the day, and we see it coming down to 155. And a couple of other losers like Stanbic also who came down, and Equity Bank, as well as East African Breweries Limited. We're going to see more of these stocks and see why this happened, maybe where the future holds, if we have any projections, what could these stocks do in the future, and are they still investable companies? Can you still invest in such companies? After the break, don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.